Welcome to the Freek Easy.
That's amazing.
That was my best crusty because I can't.
John's out.
I hate you, John. Oh man, welcome back to the Freek Easy. I'm your host, Jerry McCaffrey. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Pixel Dan.
What's going on?
And it's just us this week.
Just us. John left.
So,
Oh, wait, he's back.
Oh.
No, it's not.
Oh.
I'm here.
Welcome, John.
Hey, guys.
Welcome back.
I just landed.
Yes, you did.
Jeez.
Killer John from outer space.
I don't want to watch that movie.
You want to see my tent? It's right over
I
here.
love the circus.
Guys, welcome back to a special bonus episode of the Freek Easy.
Bonus episode.
Are we doing Thriller now?
Yeah, why not?
What?
We didn't do it on any other one. We should probably do
Well,
it.
that's what you were just over here going.
I was
He
celebrating
was
the bonus.
being scary. 'cause
Yeah.
it's Freek Easy.
Ooh,
That's
Freak Easy.
That's Thriller.
Bad at this.
Bad at what?
Recognizing thrillers appropriate time. I don't know. You're making this a bad open, John. You're awkward. You were gone, and then you're back, and you're awkward, and you're throwing me off.
In my defense, I thought we had paused.
The Halloween. No.
Yeah.
We're doing this live, John. We're running with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
The audio listeners have no idea.
You started
what's
talking about how
Man.
terrible it was. I thought you were going to redo it, so I left.
Nope, we're running with it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, let's go. I'm good.
Oh, goodness. This week we're talking about Killer Klowns from
Yeah.
Outer Space.
The perfect intro
Yeah.
for this movie.
I really think it honestly, spiritually, it's got to be, right? Plus, we got to fill some time because if we're going to match the length of last week's episode,
Oh, no,
we're
we're
going
gonna
to have to go through scene by
Wait.
scene of this movie 3 times.
We're going to go 3 hours on Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
No,
That movie is an hour and 20 minutes long.
26.
We're gonna Superman the heck out of this podcast.
Man.
You know what's a worse movie than Killer Klowns from Outer Space? Man of Steel.
Man of Steel. That's the name I was trying to think of. I couldn't even remember what it was called.
How do you not?
That one with that movie with Superman in it, kinda.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
I love how it always comes back to that. It
Always.
always circles back.
It's where we made our name.
It's like we did permanent scars.
That's right. Also, my heart still hurts.
Also, I feel like Batman v Superman was less good
The Man of Steel.
than Man of Steel, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Legit?
I'm sure that's right, but the expectations were less. There was less degree of hope going into that one. You know what I mean?
I don't. It's been so long.
Yeah.
It's been so long. I don't remember having any hope for any of those movies.
Fair enough.
Only
And I don't think I should have had hope for any of them, but
Only-
not knowing what I was going into, I still did. So,
I think Man of Steel. You probably should. Like by the time we had Man of Steel, we had some of the Marvel movies, right? So they were.
well, yeah, but we kept seeing the marketing and going, well, none of this feels right.
I don't remember.
But
Again,
then, yeah.
I only remember the pit of despair that is DC movies today, not what it was like looking forward to them.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about Killer Klowns from Outer Space, and this is the Freek Easy. So I always like to start the Freek Easy when we're discussing a franchise. I like to talk about some of the memories of the franchise and how you first came across the franchise. I don't have any for this movie.
You don't have anything for this
I don't remember seeing this in the video stores. Nothing. You know, I first time I encountered this movie was seeing it on Netflix, not even watching it. Mm-hmm. Seeing it on Netflix and being like, that can't be watchable, and kept on scrolling. Kept on scrolling.
I totally get it. Yeah.
Because in the early days of Netflix, man, do you guys remember the early days of Netflix before they had real movies?
Yes,
and their own
absolutely,
stuff?
absolutely.
In fairness, I signed up for streaming Netflix so I could watch The Maltese Falcon right then and right there.
Oh, nice.
So
wow.
so they had some good stuff too.
Yeah.
Oh, they definitely had good stuff. But they also fleshed that all they fleshed that whole service out.
Needed a library
with a whole lot of whatever they could get their
Scrolling
hands
through
on.
Netflix back then was very similar to scrolling through Amazon Prime right now.
Yeah.
It just shifted.
It shifted over. Okay, so same with me, honestly. This movie came out in '88, but it's one of those movies that super didn't matter when it came out. Nobody paid attention to it. It was not successful. Nobody was talking about it. This is one of those movies that has found life in recent years because it's been one of those things that people found on VHS or found on DVD, realized how goofy it was, so it became like this little kind of cult hit. So I kind of became aware of it just from like talk on the internet every now and then, or like I would see pictures or GIFs on the internet of these weird-looking clown characters. But it wasn't until Netflix that I really even saw it as a movie. And it was the same with me. It was like the early days of Netflix. Yeah. And I remember it because it was a weekend where I was at the house by myself for whatever reason, because this was before I had kids, and I think my wife was out of town doing something. So I had one of those nights where I was just going through and watching whatever on Netflix. And at this time, all of the Toxic Avenger movies were on Netflix.
Oh,
all the Troma ones.
Yep.
So I watched every Toxic Avenger that night, like all 3 or 4 of them. I think there was 4 of them because they were all on there.
Yeah.
I watched all of those, and then I came across Killer Klowns from Outer Space, and I watched it that night.
Yeah.
So
those are kind of like horror movies. We could.
Oh man,
yeah, they would count. They would count.
We could definitely do that.
Definitely need to do that.
I'm just super impressed. On a random night, you watched 5 movies.
Dude.
I mean, with those 5 movies, that must have taken you almost 6 hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I started at like 6 o'clock probably, and was done by 11. Yeah. So I mean, they're not like long, obviously, but it was awesome because like I watched all these Troma movies, and those are always great for what they are, and then I watched Killer Klowns, and I thought it was fun. Like, I totally saw the appeal of it. And so, like, when we started doing the Freak Easy stuff, like, this has kind of been one of the things I've been throwing out there the whole time, because I like mixing in the good stuff with the campy stuff when we're doing this. Yep. So I've always said, if we're looking for something dumb to watch or something campy, we should totally do Killer Klowns. And so this year, when we were discussing the bonus episodes, I was like, we got to do it this time. Let's just squeeze it in there between the end of our Halloween stuff and our Thanksgiving-y stuff that we're going to be doing, spoiler alert, because that would be a nice little silly thing to do in between. So this was my second time seeing it, because I watched it several years ago for the first time. So that's my only... I didn't grow up with this, obviously. Yeah. It's just something I've discovered within recent years.
First of all, I'm excited to hear that we'll be doing Thanksgiving-y stuff. It just got spoiled for me. So
you are spoiled.
I hope I'm invited.
Was I not supposed to tell John about the Thanksgiving stuff?
Way to go. Kayfabe, bro. Kayfabe. You blew
it. This is one of those interesting... I know for sure I have seen this before, which was proven by rewatching it and tonally knowing exactly what I was getting into. Scene by scene, I barely remembered any of this. I could not tell you if I saw it when it was fairly new when I was 10 or randomly when I was 18 or 25. I have no idea when I saw it. I just know I have watched this movie before. Still, it has been long enough ago where I was surprised by pretty much every scene. So, like, my memories of it are just knowing that this weird little pit of joy exists. But beyond that, there was nothing going into it. And this truly is one of those movies that, I mean, like you said, I didn't go back to check the box office by any means. I'm sure it wasn't successful when it came out. It really didn't have any sort of genre appeal that it could push because it mixed so many things. Now, I'm a big fan of genre mixing. I don't know if that's exactly what I would classify this as. This is more of, I don't even know if you can put a genre around this thing. This is just more of like mixing tropes into a...
You know, I actually I feel like this is it's more like a creature feature.
Kind of
than anything else, you know, or even a like an invasion movie than like, you know, an alien invasion.
Yeah,
it's got a little bit of a
except that like The reason I feel like it's a genre mix, because like clown movies isn't a genre, but they managed to take every clown motif, every clown joke, every clown image you could get, and found a way to turn it into a campy horror movie thing. You know what I mean? So like, it's not exactly a mix of genres, but it's this one style slammed into this other thing, and I'm a fan of when that sort of thing happens. So I don't know you guys' impressions of this movie. I understand fully how stupid it was.
Yes.
But I smiled through every second of this thing.
No, okay, so I'm with you. Absolutely. Yeah. This is why I wanted to watch it again for this, because I think this movie is hilarious, and I know that it's supposed to kind of be that way. Like, this movie knows what it is. It's very self-aware. It's campy and over the top, and it's not really scary unless you're like a big I don't know what the proper term is, but I know there's a term for like being terrified of clowns.
Yeah.
So unless that's something that really bothers you,
and even then, I feel like you could probably make it through this one,
right?
Because none of them even look like clowns.
I was gonna say it's pretty tame,
yeah.
And and that's kind of one of the things I love about this movie, though, is the special effects are super fun in this. Because I love the costumes that they created for the clown characters. It's just got that great like practical effect kind of stuff that we're always talking about on here. Mm-hmm. I think they look awesome. And like, it's not a particularly gruesome or even violent movie. But the silly things they come up with for the kills, I mean, it's fun. I think it's enjoyable. I think Jaren's got a little bit of a different opinion, so I'll turn it over to you.
Turn it over to me. So I'm gonna be the party pooper, and I feel kind of bad. I feel like I've done that a lot this season, and like I'm the horror guy, But I was a little bored with this movie. There's nothing offensive. It wasn't. I'd watch this 5 times before I watched the best Ghoulies once.
Which is Ghoulies 2, right?
Yes, definitely.
And that's the one with crossover appeal.
Yeah, that's right.
With this movie.
So there's plenty that I did enjoy. This movie was done by the Kyoto brothers, mm-hmm. The Kyoto brothers, who had done some. They were special effects guy. They worked on Critters and Ernest Scared Stupid.
Yes.
They did. They were the guys who did Large Marge, when her face.
Yeah.
They did.
These guys are geniuses.
Yeah. Yes. Clearly.
And here's a fun fact too. I don't know if you noticed this when you were looking through that, but you just brought up Ernest Scared Stupid. The trolls in that movie are some of them are reused Killer Klowns costumes.
Really?
Yeah, to make those trolls.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was going to say, since you brought up Large Marge, I want to remind the audience that if any of you are around that 40 age, Large Marge was one of the scariest things you saw and carried with you for a good decade after that.
You're totally right.
Yeah. Not wrong.
Yeah. You are not wrong about that.
Whether you remember or want to admit it, it's true.
As much as I love that movie and loved it as a kid, that was a scary scene. Absolutely.
I mean, that scene I would put it right up with a lot of these. We talk about all the boxes and stuff we'd see walking through the video. When you have memories of horrors and you think of the ghoulie popping out of the toilet, and you think of Freddy looking back at you from that the cover of the VHS at the rental store, and you think of Large Marge exploding onto Pee Wee.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Tell him Large Marge sent you. I love it.
So my biggest problem with this movie, and I don't know how you guys want to talk about it, if we were going to talk about stuff that happens.
Frame by frame.
Frame by frame.
Frame by frame. Well, we don't
but it felt to me, almost like it was trying a little too hard to be like quirky and campy, and I kept comparing it when I was watching it, not comparing it like directly, but I kept thinking of Snakes on a Plane. Which I don't know if people remember that, but that was kind of like the first movie that kind of blew up on the internet because they announced like,
that movie was written by the internet,
right?
Yeah,
and Sam Jackson was like, I'm working on this movie Snakes on a Plane, and the internet went crazy, and then the place released it, and they released the poster, and they were like, here's the poster for the movie you guys are all excited about. Also, the official title is now Flight 187. And everybody was like, no, we signed up for Snakes on a Plane. What? And so they changed it back, and then they just tried to make it that movie so hard. And I felt like these guys were like, what'd be crazy? We'll have a bunch of killer clowns from outer space. That'd be crazy. Let's make that movie. So there's just some of it that seemed like a little forced and like a little cosmetic. You know, like any of that, like the fact that they look like clowns, and you know, some of their clown gadgets was popcorn or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, these could have been any alien, and most of those scenes would have just played out the same way.
Yeah. Nothing you're saying is wrong by any means.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of whether or not you enjoyed that ride.
So, yeah,
you know?
that's fair. That's fair.
But their spaceship was a big circus tent.
Yeah.
Not any alien could have a big circus tent.
This thing is barely a movie. It is a series of moments of people going, all right, what do clowns do?
That is legit.
And what if at the end of that somebody died?
So,
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't have a ton of mileage for me. I enjoyed it. There were several scenes I liked, several scenes that made me chuckle. Again, 5 times before the best Googly once. But this just didn't do it for me.
Well, I think that what impressed me the most going through was every time, from about probably a third of the way, give or take, through, my mind ran out of clown bits. And then every time they'd switch to a new scene, I'd go, oh, yeah, he's following footprints now. Oh, yeah, he's a ventriloquist. All right, I can see it. Oh, yeah, they all get out of the same car.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a small car, and there's so many clowns. And every time, so they'd pop up with something new. I'm like, all right, this is going to end soon. Oh, wait, though, there's another bit. This is impressive.
I was gonna say, like some of that.
They had all the pies that melted that guy.
Dude, the pies that melted that dude into a puddle. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Well, that also means everybody died at the end, right?
I know. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, theoretically, but you know, whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I was laughing quite a bit at a lot of the dialogue in this movie. One of the standout moments to me is right at the very beginning, where they're kind of setting everybody up, because they're at the scene where they're at like the makeout point or whatever, and then the 2 dopey ice cream brothers show up in their ice cream truck or whatever, and then it pans over to our main character, who is
Mike Tobacco.
Mike Tobacco, our main character, Mike
Obviously.
Tobacco. And Mike is going, those guys are hilarious. I love them. And his girlfriend or whoever goes, well, you know those guys. And his response is, yeah, those are my best friends. Whenever I'm having a bad day, I hang out with them. They're great for a laugh, and they lift my spirits. I'm like, what is this dialogue? Like, what is going on here? Just explain every little bit that's going on. Well, it was killing me, man.
Also, I find it one of the most unbelievable parts of the movie that anyone would hang out with those guys on purpose.
I know.
well, hold on though, because what about how this entire cast is like, oops, all Brads.
Oops, all Brads.
like we've got Brad.
It's the 1980s a-hole cereal.
Yeah, we've got the lady Brad. We've got the cop Brad. We've got the 2 Italian Brads.
It's amazing. Oh boy.
Oh.
So
I don't Photoshop, but I need somebody to make me the cover art for a box of Oops All Brads.
Oops All Brads.
So I have some notes. So let me go through our notes.
Go through the notes.
So I took pretty extensive notes because
for bored. Killer Clowns.
Yeah.
I love it.
So my first note. I love any movie that just has like any product is just white with the name of what it is. Like he's in that very first scene, he's drinking that can of beer that is just it's
Yes.
all white and it just says beer down the side.
Can I throw out a frame of reference, I guess, for that though? My dad was a military guy for many years, and I remember he used to tell me about when they would go back in probably the 70s to early 80s, because we were talking about craft beer or the amount of options or something along those lines that's just totally out of his spectrum. Mm-hmm. And he was saying, back when he was young and he just had the PX was the only place they could go to shop, and they didn't have brands. You would just walk down the aisle and you would just find the white can that said beer in black letters on the side, and that's what you bought. That's what you got.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when I saw that scene, I immediately went, huh. They must have got that at the PX.
Well, maybe so, because I always think of, I think it's Repo Man, where that whole store, they go in that whole store at one point, and everything is just white and just says what it is on it. I don't remember if that's a PX. If that,
yeah, I don't know.
I remember just assuming, like, because I even, like, when I remember seeing that movie, I was young, and I'd been to Kroger's, and even, like, Aldi didn't look like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was like,
as I say, that must have been stocked by Army surplus then.
maybe,
Yeah.
So my next note, this is the best ice cream man ever. Because before we meet the DiCenzo, the Brad brothers, these two guys, this ice cream truck rolls in to like make out point, and he's like, "Who wants a frosty treat while you make out?" And I'm like, and he just goes on this whole, and it's a.
Then he's like sexual innuendo,
right,
sexual
yeah,
innuendo,
I was gonna
sexual
say,
innuendo.
It's super inappropriate, and I don't remember it anyway.
Yeah,
but I remember listening to it, being like, I'd go buy all his ice cream. If he rolled up here like that, I don't care what I was doing with who. I'm buying some ice cream.
Buying some ice cream. I like how they were legit mad. You said if we went up to make a point, we'd sell some ice cream. Yeah. I didn't say that. You said that.
Well, then they had those two chicks that were there, and they were like, "Hey, what are we doing at Makeout Point? You said we could eat all the ice cream we want."
I know.
They're just like, "I guess we better get out of here." Yeah. And then they just leave. It was ridiculous.
Oh man.
This note says, then the comet comes, and it's like the ship. Yep, right?
Yep.
But we cut over to this old man farmer.
Yeah, dude.
The uncle from Ghoulies 2.
Yeah, the uncle from
Ghoulies 2.
And
his name was Gene Green, Farmer Gene Green.
him and his dog go to check it out, and it's just this giant circus tent. Which, first of all, I love that like everybody who walks up to this giant circus tent in the middle of the forest out of nowhere is like, "Hey, a circus! We should go check it out."
I know,
and
dude.
not like, "This is weird."
I know. Well, and then he was just like, "Where's the ticket booth? How do I get into this circus?" Like that was like his whole concern.
Yeah. Well, what finally made me laugh was because one of the clowns pops out and grabs his dog.
Yeah.
But then he doesn't see that.
Yeah.
But he turns around and his dog is just gone, and he immediately assumes that the circus tent did something to his dog instead of like, my dog ran away. Like, that's a leap.
Yeah.
Like, this old man, like, what'd you do to my dog? Like, no, probably your dog ran away.
Yeah. And he punches the tent, and then it hurts his hand, and you're like, "Oh man, it must be made of metal," or he's 100.
Yeah.
He lasted longer in Ghoulies too.
So then the Mike Tobacco and his girlfriend go and check it out.
The dude's name is Mike Tobacco.
I don't think I ever caught his last name because it was making me laugh every time you say it.
Well, I don't know if they said it in the movie. I remember seeing it in the credits, and
it's almost even better then.
Yeah. But like they're running out of there, and they shoot him with popcorn, and the girl kind of stops, and she's like, "Why'd they shoot us with popcorn?" And I was like, "That's an appropriate reaction."
Yeah,
that's what if a monster was chasing, I don't care how scary the monster is. If he shoots me with popcorn, I'm gonna stop and be like,
"Why'd you shoot me with popcorn?"
Especially in this case when the answer is not particularly scary.
Yeah.
But then one of my favorite scenes because they escape and run through the forest, and the clowns make a balloon dog, like a balloon animal dog that tracks them, and I can't tell you why, but like that balloon animal, because it was like barking and like point in different ways. Like watching that balloon animal dog chase them through the forest. One of my favorite parts
I was
of this movie.
dying,
Yeah,
dude.
exactly.
I had completely forgotten about that part. So like, because it's awesome. That scene's like they walk out and they're just like, they blow up a balloon and start folding up a balloon animal, and they're like, oh, this is hilarious. And then the dog's just alive and starts barking and yipping, and then I'm like, oh my god, it's even better.
I was like, like I thought that was great setup, and that is exactly the kind of I hesitate to use the word innovation because this movie's so stupid, but that's what it is. It's idiotic innovation. You know, and the fact that they start off by what's a clown bit? I don't know, balloon animals. Well, what if they make a balloon animal, but then it's a real bloodhound? I'm just like, that's great. Run with it.
All in, man.
So then we got a fairly cliche scene because they run back to town and they're trying to tell these cops that there's killer clowns from outer space in the forest, right?
Yeah.
And of course the cops don't believe them. And so I have this note that I feel is worth bringing up, just so everybody knows. If I ever realize that I'm living in a horror movie, I'm going to and I'm like the first one. I'm going to tell one cop my story, and when he doesn't believe me, I'm leaving town, and that's on them. I did my part.
You did your part.
That's
Yep.
That's it. It's not my part.
I've often had that similar thought, except in my version, I'm telling the cop on the phone
on
my way out of town.
Yes. Well, I feel like maybe I owe it at least to in a small town where there's two cops, like. In bigger cities where you have to go to like the county building.
You know what always happens though is that one cop doesn't believe you and finds a reason to put you in the jail cell, and then you got to wait till the killer shows up and tears through the police station, and then you happen to get away in the last second, and then you can't find your car keys, and then it just snowballs from there. It's safer to just get out. Call them. You've done your civic duty at that point.
It's fair.
It's all you can do.
It's fair. I think if I'm just leaving, I probably won't even call at that point.
Well, you got to call. That'd just be rude.
But what about how that cop just randomly picks up those two college kids and is like trying to beat them up? The old cop. What's the old cop's name?
Well, they do that thing too where they establish like the old cop is kind of like the jerk, crooked cop of town that does what he wants. And then the young cop fresh out of the force is the voice of reason, and they do that whole thing. Like they set that up right away.
Because he calls them like police academy or something along those lines.
All right, police academy.
Yeah. And then the young cop's just like, oh, you can be mad all you want that I, scored well on an exam, but this is still real police work or whatever. This is the most bizarre exchange imaginable.
Well, it almost was kind of like one of those where like you write the gist of what we need to say, and then you're going to go back later and make it sound like actual human speech.
Yep.
But they forgot to ever do that.
Or they went back to do it and went, no one watching this movie cares.
Yeah.
Like, we'll just get the point across.
That's not the movie we're in.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an actual. I remember having this realization. So first I was watching this for a little while, and I think I had the impression of like, okay, so they wanted to make an alien movie, like an alien invasion movie, but clown costumes would be cheaper than alien costumes, so they went with the clowns. And then I started looking at the clowns, and I was like, well, that's definitely not true, because these are just straight up alien costumes that look like clowns. So I just wanted to point that out, that like I really noticed a lot of work. Like, I mean, they put a lot of work into all the costumings and all the special effects, and we kind of talked about that, and like that was what the Kyotos did, and I assume what they wanted to do. They get hired for certain movies, and you have to work on what they want. They just want to do like, well, what if let's just make a movie where we can do all our tricks. And you know what I mean? And we can do anything we want. And if we want to, make a balloon animal that chases somebody through the forest, we'll do that. If we want to make, a giant squishy clown, we'll do that.
In all honesty, in the dumbest way possible, this movie's like 20 years ahead of its time, because it is almost meta in how overt it is about what it is doing. Like, it's not trying to give you a real movie; it is trying to give you these these moments where exactly what they can do. They can test out their special effects. They can run these gags. They can make this crossover between something scary and something ridiculous happen or whatever. And you see a lot more. Once movies started going meta with regularity, I can't think of a prime example that I would compare against Killer Klowns Without a Space, but tonally you see stuff like this nowadays with regularity, whereas in 1988 there wasn't anything I could point to that was like this on that level, that was just so aware of how ridiculous it was, that it existed as its own thing.
I can see that.
I'm also not saying it would have worked better 20 years later.
For sure.
I'm just saying it's got an interesting tone for its time.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. So at this point, Mike Tobacco and Brad Kopp are headed up to check out the tent, right? This tent that's supposedly there.
Yeah. Well, don't skip over the plot point here, is because you find out that Brad Kopp, who is Dave, is the ex-boyfriend of Mike Tobacco's girlfriend. So
girl Brad.
Yeah, of girl Brad. So they make, when they're telling the cop the story and he doesn't really believe any of it, but he's trying to play nice because he's still got feelings for his girl, and he makes her go stay home where she'll be safe, and he takes the guy that he already doesn't like because he's dating
right.
girl Brad girl, whatever. With him, and so now we've got some animosity built up between the main characters, which is really important.
Really important.
Killer Klowns from outer space.
Well, definitely thanks for pointing that out. I was about to get to that because my note is actually I would not go up to the forest with my girlfriend's ex-boyfriend cop. That's just not a thing I would do. The cop, and the whole town would just be on their own. I'd just get out of that car and leave.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny because
then they get there, and there's like the hole, because the tent is gone, except there's this giant crater in the middle of the forest, which is super not less. And Brad Kopp is like, "Where's this tent, huh?" Yeah. And I'm like, this is super
just
not
ignoring the giant crater that's in this field.
The crater is not less suspicious than the tent would have been.
Yeah.
Well, I just think like when she says something about how, even though they broke up, this or that, and Mike Tobacco's like, "Oh, that's your ex-boyfriend," and whereas the audience sitting there going, Mike Tobacco, that's the most obvious thing that could have possibly happened. There's no way you didn't see that coming. We saw that coming a mile away.
So here we get best kill is definitely, because then this is where that little cop or that little clown shows up to meet the bikers.
Man, dude. Well, so this is the part of the movie where we start just like rolling out, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Like in all these skits.
The movie's picking up.
So now we just get all these basically little clown skits like in a row. But yes, the bike one is easily one of the best in the movie. It's probably
It's got to be top 3.
It's got to be top 3. It's also probably the most violent thing in the whole movie.
For sure.
Yeah, but it's amazing. This whole scene, the way it plays out. I love how it's a long scene. It's got like so much buildup because little clown rides up on a tricycle to like this biker bar. And all the tough guy stereotypical dudes are hanging outside of the biker bar, and so he rolls up on his little tricycle, and they're all making fun of him. And then there's the one that's gonna be the bully and come and pick on the little clown. And this is where he goes he goes full on clown mode here, right? Because he's doing the sad clown stuff while he's getting made fun of.
The bully, the biker wants to ride. He's like, "Can I ride your bike?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, "Can I honk the horn?" And he's like, "Yes."
Yeah.
But then instead of honking the horn, he just picks up the bike and smashes it to pieces.
Yeah.
Which.
Yeah.
And then he starts kind of doing the sad clown thing, and the bikers make fun of him, and then he puts on boxing gloves and wants to fight, and the bikers, and he's kind of dancing around. And one of the things I said, like, these clowns could get replaced by anything and it wouldn't change, right? So they could, I mean, if they were aliens, they're more like zombies than they ever are like clowns. There's one time where they act like where this one acts like a clown because it's doing like the sad clown thing and kind of like a mime routine and being a little goofy, and then he's doing like the cartoon, let me at him, come on, right?
Yeah.
And then he just spring punches this biker's head off.
Yeah, the head just flies off and lands in a trash
How do they
can.
say something like, I'll knock your block off or whatever?
No, he said, what are you going to do, knock my block off? And then he knocks his block off.
Amazing. Amazing. I laughed so hard, dude.
Yeah.
That head goes flying through the air, and I lost it because I was like, that was a perfect amount of buildup for what just happened here.
Instantly my favorite thing in the whole movie.
Yeah, it was amazing.
For sure.
It was amazing.
But then we go back to Brad and Mike Tobacco, Brad Cop. And they're up at Lookout Point. So he got mad after they went to the crater and there was no circus tent and he arrested Mike Tobacco. Right?
Yeah.
And then as they're driving back, they drive past Lookout Point or Makeout Point, whatever it is, and all the cars are like trashed and there's like nobody's there, like all the teenagers are gone.
Yeah.
And Mike's like, oh, what's going on? Like they stop and Mike's like, oh, what's going on? I'm like, can he not look out the window? Like the windows aren't. He's not blindfolded. He's like, what? But the whole scene, like Brad Cop gets out and he's like checking some of the cars and he finds like some cotton candy.
I was gonna say, aren't they all covered in like cotton candy and stuff?
He finds one that is,
Okay.
but they're mostly just trashed.
Yeah, because we didn't really mention that they're making like these cotton candy cocoons,
Yeah.
and they're like hanging them up in their ship.
That's what they had done to the farmer Green.
Yeah.
Whatever his name
Yeah,
was.
I love that scene where they're like,
Yeah.
because that's when Mike Tobacco and Girl Brad are exploring the spaceship, and they like rip the piece of cotton candy off, and you see like the bloodied guy inside the cotton candy cocoon, and they're like, they're making cocoons
Which
of
I
everybody.
will say, I think it's a little funny too because up through that biker scene, I couldn't remember the specifics, but I kind of had it in my head that they were doing the shtick where they were turning everybody into cotton candy, but whenever this movie ended, they were going to vanquish the clowns and all the cotton candy people were going to wake back up and stuff like that, you know? And then he just straight knocked that biker's head off, and I'm like, oh, maybe the stakes are higher than I realized.
Yeah. So also we get the scene with Mooney taking all those calls, which I love. Like,
yeah, dude.
So the grizzled old cop Mooney has decided that this is all a big prank,
Right.
and
The kids in town are playing a prank on him.
Yep.
They kind of establish early on that this is like a college town or something like that, and
well, that's what he was dragging those college kids in.
and like he obviously hates that, and he
Right.
hates all the college kids or whatever. So like that kind of got established for this scene.
And so for some reason he thinks that they're trying to like run him out of this job.
Yeah.
And so as he's starting to get all these calls because now in the movie like the clowns are going door to door killing just everybody in town, and he's getting all these calls.
Yeah.
And I had to laugh at the first call he got because the first call he's got. You know, she's like, I need help. Oh, there's clown, blah, whatever. And he's like, oh, yeah, is there a clown? Who is this? And she's like, just come help. And hangs up on him. And I'm like, first I was like,
That'll do it.
well, yeah, exactly. You know, I was like, hold on. Who is this? Is the only real question he's asked you. Like, what are we doing? He probably needs your address. But then he just decides that they've got everybody in town is in on this, and so then sometimes he's taking the calls and he'll just be like, oh, real clown, huh? Yeah, I bet, and hang up on them, and then he just starts ignoring the calls, and like there's like a ham radio people are calling over, and he goes and turns that off, and I'm like, this is. I was super entertained watching him get all mad about this. Because the whole time he's going like, "You're not gonna run me out of this." Oh yeah, real clown, huh? Ha ha ha! I think I'm gonna fall for it. I'm just like, awesome. This guy, like everybody in town is calling you about this, and you're just gonna ignore it. All right, cool. Whatever.
Also, far and away the best actor in this movie.
Man, I'll give you that.
I actually believed him as a chiseled old pissed off guy, mad at the world.
Is that the only character he played?
Probably, yeah. Well, if nothing else, this guy's recognizable enough. He's been around long enough to where if he's at this age and he finds himself in Killer Klowns from Outer Space, then he's a chiseled old pissed off actor.
Yeah.
Not wanting to get run out of town.
Let's see. Some of these notes I've already talked about.
Well, this is kind of the point of the movie where we just get like all these insane scenes where
Yeah.
the clowns are literally just going door to door and murdering people.
Yep.
Right? Because we get all these scenes where they're just like a knock on the door and they open it up and there's the clowns and they're killing you. And it's just like they're just going around the town knocking on doors and killing people.
Cop Brad had let Mike Tobacco go.
Yeah.
And he went to find the DeChico brothers or whoever the heck they were. And
they're the Brad brothers.
he was and he was gonna go back to the police station.
Yeah.
And then they had to keep girl Brad in mind, but she didn't factor in right there, but they're trying to figure out what to do. So Mike Tobacco goes and finds the Brad brothers in their ice cream truck and teams up with them and is trying to convince them that there's clowns running around killing people. Meanwhile, Brad Cop is going back to the station.
Well, hold on. Because what had happened with them? Because remember, he sees them he's running down the street looking for them, and all of a sudden their ice cream truck comes rolling out of an alley, and they come chasing their ice cream truck.
I forgot about that.
And it hasn't been taken.
All about that.
Yeah, it hasn't been taken by clowns. The girls they were trying to hit on didn't take it.
Those Brad brothers.
Yeah, he's just like, I'll go find them, and because they've got the loudspeaker, and we'll go warn everybody. And Brad Cop is like, okay, you do that. I got to go get the state police down here. And then he's just walking down the street, and all of a sudden their thing just comes rolling out of that alley. I was like, what is going on? What is this?
I love it.
Well, somewhere in the mix, that clown shows up at the police station, and the old grizzled cop goes to arrest him.
Yeah.
And then that's intercut with Mike Tobacco with the Brad brothers now going through town, theoretically with the loudspeaker, but he keeps trying to convince them that this thing is real. And I don't remember the exact order of how this stuff goes down, but that's about when they come along. They find a killer clown, and so they stop to pull over to see what he's doing. And there's this clown on the side of the road, and he's doing shadow puppets on the wall. And he's making like this lady dance, and he's doing whatever else. And he's got this group of people who have showed up, and they're all watching him, and they're all like, oh, marveling at how fun it is. And that's when Mike Tobacco pulls up with the other guys, and they're just staring at him, and they're still going on and on about how he's just trying to trick him into something. And remember when you fell for that thing? No, it was you who fell for that thing, doing that whole shtick. And they stop to watch this thing, and then the shadow puppet clown does a dinosaur.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh. And then the dinosaur leans over and just eats everybody who's sitting there like the shadow of a dinosaur.
Yeah.
And again, that's another one of those moments where you're like, what a bit.
Yeah.
I love it. But
That's-
now all of a sudden the brothers freak out and know something's going on.
Like, what did he do with those people too? Because there's totally that scene after that where he looks like he's got like the people.
They turn into popcorn.
Yeah. Oh, did they turn into popcorn?
They turn into popcorn.
Yeah.
And throws them in that
Because they were in his
bag.
hand, and I said like he reached and put them in his bag or whatever.
Yeah.
But I didn't know did he shrink
There's
them down?
not a
or,
lot
like-
of consistency to the science of the
Yeah,
killer
right,
clowns
yeah.
from outer space. Because some people get,
science.
some people get cotton candied, some people get turned into popcorn, some people get put in balloons.
So I found a video.
Oh, the balloons.
no.
that explains it.
What?
Oh,
That
no.
explained
Oh,
the way it explained it.
That's not a thing.
So some of the clowns are in charge. So some of the clowns are responsible for finding food, and they're the ones that wrap people up in cotton candy and bring them back to the ship.
Oh, because they totally drink those people when they're in
Right.
like they do that bit where
crazy straw.
He stabs the crazy straw into the cotton candy cocoon and like drinks the blood.
Yep. And there are some clowns that are responsible for finding more clowns because it seems like they turn people into popcorn, but then the popcorn grows into the little clown
Heads that
face
pop out of
things.
toilets
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
and presumably those will evolve into full actual clowns.
I was gonna say that
So
that was our ghoulie moment in the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, the killer clowns can do it, but the ghoulies can't.
Right. and that had to be homage.
An homage.
Homage.
Yeah.
I would I would like to take a short moment to condemn you for looking into the science of killer clowns from outer space. Trying to ruin my experience with an explanation.
Well, I was just trying to find anything I could. I couldn't find much on it. There was, it was another one of those.
It gives me hope in the world.
Well, like we talked about with the Ghoulies, how it's a cult classic, but I couldn't find anything on it. Yeah. Almost as if it was not a cult classic. I felt the same way about this. I was like, I feel like this is kind of like a cult classic, but there's nothing. There's no information. No, yeah. Even the Wikipedia page, legit. The Wikipedia page, I feel like one of the Kyoto brothers wrote, because it the production talks about each effect. Like if normally the production talks about, they found some money here, they found some money here. Yeah. It was hard to make this, it was hard to do that. So and so got hurt doing this, and then it was received this way. Yeah. This one is a full known for their special effects. They used this to make this special effect. They did this. They used perspective for the Clownzilla. It just went through all that. I was like, did one of the Kyotos write this? One of the Kyotos still regularly. The other thing I found is that one of the Kyotos still regularly talks about wanting to make a sequel, and as recently as 2018, Sci-Fi was trying to buy the rights so they could.
Oh, good. That's where it needs to go. Sci-Fi.
Honestly, I think that's where it needs to go.
Killer Clown NATO from outer space. Here it comes, guys.
Amazing. Also, you always have to remember the term cult classic is overused.
For sure.
Or too widely used, because a lot of times a cult classic is an Evil Dead series where people have really attached themselves to it. There is a following closely associated with it. There are people who have researched things. They have theories. They have stories. They have all sorts of stuff. And then sometimes cult classic just means a lot of people have seen it and remember it exists, but they've seen it once and then and they do not care to research it.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right.
So the Mooney, the older cop, gets murdered and made into a ventriloquist doll.
That's so
good. Which was another one of the moments where I was like, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
This is these little. There's definitely a lot of little bright spots where.
Did they show him getting? I remember him putting the clown in the cell
for sure. So
I don't remember anything else between then and the ventriloquist doll thing.
Well, he puts the clown in the cell, and then he's going to smack him because he thinks it's somebody, and he hits the clown in the back of the head. Which this guy is just a terrible cop.
Yeah.
I was totally.
He is the problem with police work.
I was having this thought where I was like, he's one of those rare. Sometimes you come across a character where they're like a total jerk,
right?
But you also kind of hope that they're going to turn out to be
there's a redemption,
like a tough guy, oh, this is just the kind of guy. He's not going to take any nonsense from these clowns.
Right.
He's going to shoot first and ask a question, but then he totally just arrests that clown, puts it in the cage, and smacks it in the back of the head. And I'm like, well, he's dead. Then never mind about that. He's just dead.
Yeah.
And the clown does. He turns around. This is the he blows the streamer.
Oh, yeah.
It turns into a hand and chokes him.
Yeah, grabs him.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
And then when Cop Brad comes into the station, that clown is there with.
Isn't that where he's got all the footprints on the ground, too?
That's after that, because doesn't Brad get knocked out or something? And when he wakes up, or does he run out and come back? Or maybe it's just that scene.
I thought maybe that led up to the ventriloquist.
Maybe I think you might be right.
Yeah. Maybe I don't remember. Those seem like two different scenes to me, but they're probably not. That seems dumb.
Did your explanation into the science of killer clowns tell you anything about mind melding with the ventriloquist dummy or whatever? Or how? Because that's one thing I wondered how that worked. Because when Cop Brad finds old chiseled dead cop. He's being held. He's next to a clown, and he's got the little lines on his mouth that makes him look like a ventriloquist dummy, like we're talking about. Except when he actually starts to speak, the clown is doing a ventriloquist bit with him. So he's talking, and the clown's not moving his mouth. And every once in a while, he'll look at the clown, and he'll go back. But when he starts talking, he's calling the guy Dave. He's saying not to worry about his girlfriend or whatever. He's saying all this stuff that the clown wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, is he controlling his mind or what's he doing with him or whatever? And then when the speech ends, the clown just pulls his hand out of the guy's back, and it's covered in blood, and the guy's eyes just kind of roll over, and he's dead. So you're like, all right, well, he was dead the entire time. So do the clowns know who these people are now, or how does that work?
You just can't even think about that.
But you just enjoy the fact that he ventriloquist dummied this old terrible cop.
I enjoyed
exactly.
that. I enjoyed that. The video just listed one of the clown's powers as superb ventriloquist skills. So
all right,
yes,
that truly is superb.
Accurate. What about the one scene that was kind of like the closest we got to a little bit like scary, when the clown's like trying to lure out the little girl out of the restaurant?
Oh, that was
because they actually almost do like a creepy clown bit with her, because like the little girl's like at that pizza restaurant.
It's very
or whatever.
Pennywise.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she looks outside, and the clown's like on the little like horsey, and then he waves at her, and he does the peekaboo thing with her, and he's got her giggling, and then he's like, "Come outside." And then right before she goes outside, her mom's just like, "What are you doing? Come back in." So like they do that thing where you're like, "Oh no, not the kid."
Yeah.
It's like the only time in the movie where you're like, "Oh no," because the rest of the movie you're just laughing at everything. But except that one moment you're like,
a lot of that town ended up going down. You have to assume that kid probably got killed anyway, right?
I was gonna say, like, in the long run, there's no way that kid.
Before we get off the police thing too quick, it's right after the ventriloquist bit where they find out where Dave finds out how to kill him, right? Isn't that where he gets into the shootout with it, and he finally shoots the one in the nose?
It was that clown. It was the ventriloquist clown. Yeah. Because he shoots it, and it hits it in the nose, and the nose pops.
Well, he keeps shooting it, and it keeps just staggering at him, and then he finally like shoots him in the nose, and when he shoots him in the nose, it freaks out and starts spinning around in a ball of light, and then just explodes.
The nose explodes into confetti. And then the clown like spins around and implodes.
Also explodes into confetti.
Yeah. Yes. So that's how he finds the weakness for the killer clowns. Gotta go for the nose.
Bullets. Their only weakness.
But only in the nose. Only in the nose.
We also get the scene where they capture Girl Brad, which they capture her in a balloon.
They put her in a balloon
for some reason.
Tie her to the top of a car and drive around.
Yeah. That scene is also.
Was that after the parade scene?
Yes.
Okay, because we get that whole parade.
The parade scene is earlier because they're in the ice cream truck for the parade.
Oh yeah.
Because they like pull around that corner and then they like back out and drive away. That's when, because he's got to tell the two Brad brothers that she's got roommates, because like, we need to go get Debbie. And they're like, I don't know about that, man. And he's like, she's got roommates, 2 of them. He's like, do they like ice cream? And he's like, yeah. Let's go. Get out of here.
So ridiculous.
It's bad. But the
she
scene,
doesn't even have roommates.
Well, the scene she doesn't have roommates. The scene with the girl in her house, though, like that's where this movie almost becomes like a horror movie for a minute, because like it's got the little head, like in the bathroom, it's got the little clown heads popping out of the toilet and out of her hamper, and then she runs outside and like the clowns are. She runs to that window.
Quick fire bits too. No, because she runs to the door first and she can hear Mike, and Mike's banging on the door, going, "Hey, hey, girl, Brad,
yeah,
let me in. We're here to save you or whatever." And she opens the door, and it's just a clown standing out there. And she freaks out and slams the door, and then she runs over to the window to escape through the window. And when she looks down from the window, there's like 4 clowns standing down there with one of those like trampoline things, like waiting for her to jump. And she freaks out about that too. Yeah. And that was after she fought like the little snake clown things in the bathroom.
Yeah.
So
it was great.
Yeah, so that was I enjoyed that scene. That was another scene where it kind of came alive for me. But then she gets captured, and the research I did not explain why some humans get put in balloons.
I was gonna say, like that's totally one of those things that's like, why wouldn't they just put her in a cotton candy cocoon like everybody else? Why is she special? She gets to go in a balloon.
They did know at least Cop Brad was looking for her somehow.
Yeah.
Assuming there's some sort of hive mind because the ventriloquist clown did. Now I'm putting way too much time.
Yeah, you are.
I blame time out. I blame you for having researched this anyway. Do you know the last time somebody put the words research and killer clowns from outer space in the same category was probably
when they made that
25
video.
The guy
years
who made
ago.
that video.
Yeah.
Well, I just didn't want to be just a party pooper because I didn't really enjoy this a ton. So I didn't want to just be a party pooper. I wanted to have some. I also, even in that I didn't enjoy it a ton, I didn't have a lot to talk about for it. So
yeah. Fair enough. You don't have to explain it. You just have to be my crutch for overthinking it.
That's fine. That's fine. I was worried we'd get on the podcast and you'd go, I liked it a lot. And John would say, I liked it a lot. And I'd go, I liked it kind of. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Okay, getting back to this. So now the four Brads have to go rescue the girl. And they have to, the Klowns parked their ship at an actual...
Four Brads.
At an actual... like circuit, not
like,
a circuit,
like
amusement park.
Carnival,
yeah,
amusement park.
Carnival.
Yeah.
And they go in, and they also lost me a little bit here because now the inside of this ship is clearly just like they didn't have anything. You know, like they get into some parts that are like just you can tell they're on like a dark studio.
Yeah, like a stage.
Just like,
a sound stage.
Yeah, a sound stage.
Yeah. Well, it was very reminiscent.
With a doorway in front of them. And I think they thought it was like, oh, it looks kind of surreal. Except that, no, I could just tell what it was.
Yeah, there was just like a lot of nothing around. Yeah.
But they find everybody. Man, they just don't care about anybody because they're looking for that girl.
Let's just say we also glanced over my favorite kill.
Oh, sorry.
Which we referenced earlier. But when the Klowns show up to the amusement park thing, there's that security guard walking around. And this little bitty car pulls up, and a killer clown from outer space gets out, and then another one gets out, and then another one gets out. And I loved it because they're clearly doing the clown car bit, where it's amazing how many clowns are getting out of this car. And the security guard is just watching this happen, and he's the one who's supposed to be amazed by how many clowns are getting out of this car. And then at the end, like 5 clowns get out of that car, which is... I guess an impressive amount of clowns for the size of the car.
It was a tiny car.
But it's not like a clown car amount of clowns getting out. Like, that car was bigger than most clown cars, and less clowns got out of that car than would get out of a clown car. But he's sitting there watching them, and he's clearly amazed by it. And then he tells them, I mean, he gives them some sort of line about, like, the park being closed or something absolutely redundant.
Yeah.
And then they all hold up, like, all of a sudden they flash back over, and they're all holding pies, these giant cream pies. And then they go back to him, and he's like, what are you going to do with those pies? And then he just starts getting clobbered with these things. And it's enjoyable on 2 levels for me. The absolutely absurd, and then I think this is probably the second most gruesome thing in the movie.
Yeah, probably.
Next to the head getting knocked off, because they start throwing pies at this guy, and there's 5 clowns there holding pies, and then they cut over to this security guard who's getting hit by 27 pies. Like, pie after pie after pie keeps landing on this guy. Except they do the thing where... Like, they show the scene of him getting hit with a bunch of pies, and then all of a sudden, like, it kind of cuts, and he's getting hit with more pies, and, like, he's got a thicker buildup of pie on him. But then it just keeps cutting kind of back to that same buildup.
Yeah.
So he's just getting hit with more and more, and it's never really getting that much thicker. But the clowns all walk past him when he's covered in pies, and then when our heroes, or whatever you would call them, show up, they find this pile of, like, pie cream, and they look down, and there's just, like, a skeleton arm in it.
Yeah.
So these pies have melted this poor security guard.
One of the Brad brothers, like, scoops a little glob of it up, and he says, it looks like a melted wad of ice cream. and Cop Brad is like, but it ain't. And then they just show the skeleton arm, like, sticking out of it.
Yeah, why didn't it melt his fingers?
So it's like, not only was it super campy and absurd looking, then it turned into the second most gruesome thing in the movie. Sure. So, impressive combo.
Yeah.
For sure. So there's a couple things here, because when they first come into this ship, when the 4 Brads come into the ship, the 2 Brad brothers, and you talked about them over-explaining everything in the dialogue.
Yes.
So there's this scene here where the Brad brothers are going, well, why would they be clowns? Why would they look like clowns? Maybe they've been studying us and misunderstood, like, what a clown is supposed to be. Maybe they evolved on another world where everything is, like, circus themed. and Cop Brad turns around and is like, hey, aren't we a little far into this to worry about backstory now? And I was like, perfect. Thank you, movie, because I didn't want to.
One of them said maybe they came here like centuries ago, and this is where we got our ideas for clowns. Like, good gravy, movie.
Right. I was like, thanks for
That's it. That's the winner.
Thanks for cutting that off, Brad.
Maybe they showed up and built the pyramids. You weird conspiracy theory movie.
Well, I thought that was. I took that as like a Pennywise jab or Pennywise reference.
Because he's been there for so long.
Yeah,
he's been on there so long. Yeah.
I didn't take it as that as all, but I guess time wise, it would have been that would have been really cool. That would have been a very deep cut to go to an It reference at that point because the book was only a couple years old at most, I think. But it easily could be.
Well, it could be, could not be. That's just what popped into my head when they said it for sure. Let's see. There's one other. Oh, when they're looking for, because they get in there and they're looking for Debbie, and they get into the cocoon room where everybody is like,
oh, her name's Debbie.
Oh, girl, Brad. Sorry. Failed my own bit. And they find, well, first of all, they're just looking through all those cocoons.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to get anybody else out, they're just like, nope, everybody in those cocoons. And I guess everybody in the cocoons is dead. Anyway.
I think they were dead. Yeah.
So I think that's the idea.
They already knew that.
But man, they did not care about anybody else in that town. They were just like, let's find girl Brad, and they find girl Brad. And
he's like, what color balloon was she in? I'm like, Cop Brad. You don't see any balloons. Just look for some balloons. All you can see is cotton candy right now.
Right.
You know?
It would really help if I knew the color of the balloon.
Well, then
interesting concern there.
Then Mike Tobacco, when they find her in the balloon, Mike Tobacco starts punching it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, has he never played with a balloon? Like that's not how you get somebody out of a balloon. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Hey, Mike Tobacco don't wait for reason.
Oh man.
I guess
Mike Tobacco just acts.
For sure. But they get her out of the balloon. So they get Girl Brad out of the balloon, and now it's time for the crazy funhouse chase. None of which worked for me. Were you guys into that?
I mean, it was fine. I don't know.
It didn't ruin the movie for me by any means, but it wasn't my favorite stretch either.
It didn't ruin the movie for me, but I also thought it was, considering this should be like the climax, you know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, we're being chased through an alien spaceship that's like a fun house. None of it looked like a fun house. It looked like it was meant to remind you of a fun house kind of thing.
I could easily, this is by far the hook of this movie is that they take all these bits to the next level. As far, they've got the shadow puppets that'll eat people. They've got the ventriloquist doll that's a victim. They're taking all these clown bits and moving them to that higher plane of horror movie existence, or whatever you would call this, whatever. The Funhouse, they're just clearly running through a bunch of sets to fill some time to get to the end.
Yeah.
They don't really commit to that part.
Yeah.
So I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, then I also got real frustrated because they run down one hall, and the hall is filled with regular sized balloons.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, what is there? What am I? How do we get through these balloons? Look out! And they're batting the balloons around, and I'm just like, man, it would make this a lot easier if they had some kind of weapon that propelled a spray of tiny metal objects at a high velocity. That would, because Brad Cop had a shotgun, and he's just like, oh, these balloons, he's holding a shotgun. He's like, oh, these balloons. And I know he had to kill the clowns, but I mean, come on, if he had just turned around and that it would have cleared all the balloons.
Yeah. Or also, it's a field of balloons. Just run through the damn balloons.
Also, yes, it's a field of balloons.
And that's the thing, though. They didn't really commit to the House of Mirror bits. They didn't really commit to any of the Funhouse gags you could have done right there. This whole movie has spent.
They were out of money at that point.
Well, and maybe that's it. Who knows? They spent the entirety of the movie overcommitting to bits, and that's where the joy came from. And then they get to this one area where it's okay, this should be the mother of all overcommitments, and they just rush through it as quick as they can without doing anything. So I can definitely see that as a downer.
Yeah. I also get super frustrated with the Brad brothers at this point because first of all they get separated and they run into the only two girl clowns.
Oh, the girl clowns.
Cop Brad makes a big point of turning around and going, okay, we got to stick together because we can't get separated. We got to get through this and yada, whatever movie reasoning he's got. And then immediately turns around and this trap door opens and the Brad brothers fall away. And the other Mike Tobacco and Cop Brad start to go through this door. And they turn around and Cop Brad immediately is like, where'd they go? Like seconds later. And Mike Tobacco just goes, hey, you know what? Don't worry about these guys. They do this all the time. But they're like cats. They always land on their feet.
Yeah.
And then they just show them dropping into a ball pit, not on their feet.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Into a ball pit.
That's right, the ball pit.
They land in a ball pit and they meet the girl clowns.
The girl clowns, which should have killed them but didn't.
Yep.
Well, yeah, because
who also had expanding chests.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then they show back up because the Mike Tobacco and Girl Brad and Cop Brad end up cornered, right, by all the clowns, and just when they're about to get clowned, I guess.
That's the correct verb.
Yes, for sure.
The ice cream truck comes crashing through the wall, and they come in and it's
there's no reason for that to be.
There's no reason for that to be a thing. And then they start doing because there's a clown head on top of the ice cream truck. They start doing we're the king clown.
Dude,
remember they're also both. Because when they fall into the ball pit and those two girl clowns are just standing there that should murder them but don't, and one of them goes, "Are you Debbie's roommates?"
Yeah.
And so the next time we see them, they come crashing through with that ice cream truck, and they're both covered in these like lipstick marks,
giant lipstick
everywhere.
kisses.
So basically, they just made it with these two killer clowns from outer space, who happen to be girls. That liked them so much that they didn't murder them and let them get their ice cream truck and drive it through the tent? What the hell's going on?
Through the spaceship.
Yeah. This part was ridiculous because they're on the speaker and they're doing that thing where like, we're the king clown or whatever. And
Which
all the clowns are just like...
Which also, clearly they had to learn from the girl clowns, right? Because they knew it by name. Like they called it something specific.
I don't even remember what it was.
Yeah, I don't remember what they called it.
I just remember every
it's like
clown
we are
stopped.
something almighty of the clown thing, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like there was a specific name they called it. Because I remember thinking, I can't wait for the explanation of how they learned that from those girl clowns, and it just never came.
Just
She was
never
like,
came.
I guess you just assumed they knew that then.
All those clowns just stopped dead in their tracks and stared at that ice cream truck,
Right.
and I was just like, "This is ridiculous," because they just kind of waltzed away, right? Like they were just like, "Well, we'll just walk right past all these clowns that are all staring at the ice cream truck."
Their big giant head just told them to leave these guys alone.
Like William Shatner from Third Rock, the big giant head.
Who else was shocked he didn't show up in this movie?
Shatner?
Today?
Yeah.
That movie, if that was the movie that was made in the last 5 years, he'd have been Mooney. So they walk down to get in the ice cream truck, and then Clownzilla pops out.
Clownzilla! That's a thing!
Whatever, yeah.
I love it. Giant clown.
So this big giant clown pops out and is coming down to get him, and I assume he was the actual king clown.
That's
right?
what I was. That's the impression I got. Also,
I guess it doesn't matter.
He was the thing the brothers were pretending to be.
Right, because they're like, get us out of here, but the truck is stuck.
Yeah.
So
why wouldn't it be?
Yeah. So Mike Tobacco and Cop Brad and Girl Brad jump out of the truck, but the Brad brothers are like, we're not. No, it's rented. We can't.
Yeah, they just won't leave the truck.
Yeah, so they just stay in the truck while Clownzilla picks it up and chucks it across the room, and it explodes.
And then Mike Tobacco tries to go back in for him.
Yeah.
So it's his name. His official name is King Clown, but he's known as Clownzilla. So yeah, it is. It is the King Clown.
Ridiculous.
Also, King Clown and Clownzilla. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Either way, it's not better one way or the other.
Brad Cop has to tell Mike Tobacco, no, it's too late.
Yeah.
You can't go get your friends who just
Right.
exploded.
And so he's like, get girl Brad out of here while I distract it. And so he starts running around shooting at King Clown so it'll follow him. Interesting, like that was all a perspective shot.
Yeah.
The King Clown
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
So like I always think that's I can barely get my head around how you would choreograph something. Not that this had a lot of choreography
Right.
with but like thinking about, because that's always done like in camera, right? Where like one guy is set way far
Way
back
back
so he looks
here,
small,
yeah.
and the big thing is close to the camera, and they just dress the set so you can't see the lines.
Yeah.
Boggles my mind. Like that's,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I couldn't even.
Yeah.
I understand the mechanics. I don't know that I could do
I feel
that.
like that's one of those things where, like, the first time you actually do it, your brain connects it, and you
Yeah.
go, "Oh, this is simple.
This is super easy."
But until you've actually done it,
For sure.
yeah, it's unfathomable.
For sure. So Girl Brad and Mike Tobacco run out while Cop Brad fights King Clown. He runs out of bullets, and then King Clown picks him up and is going to kill him, at which point he unhooks his badge
Yes.
and pokes him in the nose, and King Clown explodes
Also-
and dies.
Pops his
Also,
nose
like,
with his badge.
he's the one character who really knows to shoot the nose, that clearly isn't even trying to. And then he runs out of bullets, and when he runs out of bullets, he
couldn't hit
stops.
the nose once. I hate it. This is one of my big...
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
Okay. Enough. In fairness,
poo-poo it.
in fairness,
Like, how did he not hit the nose once?
on a big
with a
giant
gun?
clown.
Yeah.
in movie logic, that works perfectly. In real life logic, hitting a target is particularly difficult, especially when you're under stress. Fine. I don't think this movie's trying to put a lot of real life physics into it by any means, so it is absurd that he misses every time. However, what is infinitely more absurd is he's fighting a Clownzilla. He is continuously missing the only target he should be shooting at. And then when he runs out of bullets, like, he doesn't run for cover and try to reload. He just stops right where he is, stops paying attention to anything going on, flips his gun open and is trying to put more bullets in, and then the clown just grabs him. Like, he wasn't trying to dodge it or anything. He just forgot there was a giant clown in the room, and guy was like, "Oh no, I'm getting picked up now. Oh, what the hell was that?"
Well, also, I don't understand why he needed to distract clowns. Couldn't they all have just run out of the building? Like,
Yeah.
Most
why
likely,
did he
yes.
need to,
Yeah.
It was all part of the plan, guys.
Right.
He knew he needed to stab him in the nose with his police badge to win. Popped it like a balloon.
Well, not only does he pop his nose with the police badge pin, but then when he pops that nose and Clownzilla explodes, the whole
all of them
shit,
explode.
Which is after the whole tent had taken off.
Yeah.
Like, all these cops are running up to the scene, and Mike Tobacco and Girl Brad are running out, and they all stop, and they're looking at this tent, and the tent just takes off into the air. And while that's happening, Cop Brad stabs Clownzilla in the nose. And what sentence am I saying?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. This is
What
a real
in
thing.
the world am I explaining right now? Good gravy. So
Well,
the
then-
tent explodes in midair, and then is it the ice cream truck
It's the clown car.
It's the clown car?
Clown car.
The clown car comes crashing down to the ground after everybody thinks, like, oh no, well, at least they've exploded and everything's done. And I think there's even some dialogue there about that. And then the clown car lands, and everybody's like taken aback by that. And then
Yeah.
the door opens, and everybody's afraid a clown's going to come out. And then all of a sudden you see hands, and it's Cop Brad.
Yeah.
And Cop Brad gets out of the car, and he's safe. Somehow he got out of the grip of the exploding thing
Yes.
and into a clown car that wasn't even inside the tent when
yeah.
it took off.
I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. And so everybody's happy to see him, so they run up and embrace him, and then another door opens, and the Brad brothers pop out. Yeah. They're okay too. And all I could think in that moment, that might have been the hardest I smiled at the whole movie, but that's because all I could think is, hey, didn't your ice cream truck go over a mountain? What should have happened? Airbags in the back seat. Well, did it explode on the way down? Sprinkler system. Can you believe it? I just had a total Hudson Hawk moment.
Probably what happened.
Oh, man. Also, like, Cop Brad totally got Girl Brad in the end. Like,
Oh, did she?
like she was totally, like, in that end scene, she's like hugging on the cop, and Mike Tobacco's just standing off to the side. I was like, dang, Mike Tobacco even lost the girl in the end.
Well, they were both hugging on him for a while. And I guess Mike Tobacco split off.
Yeah.
And then, do you remember the line of dialogue right at the end there?
No.
How they said it? Because they said something about, like, I guess everything's fine now, or something along those lines. And they're like, yeah. And then they all just get clobbered with pies.
They all get hit with those pies, which means I guess they're all dead.
Like you said, theoretically melts them all to death.
Right, so they all...
And it's a very grim ending. I don't think that's how we're supposed to take it, but I feel like you could choose.
That's you have to take... I feel like... I mean, that whole time... Even if they survived, the whole rest of that town got... gobbled up.
Yeah, and the rest of the town was all dead.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they were the only 4 survivors. So I feel like it's a little more fitting if they got melted to death too.
Explode?
The whole town didn't explode, but I mean,
they for sure went door to door and just
they wrecked a lot of it for sure.
I mean, the clowns were leaving. They weren't like chased out of town. They were like, "We're done here. Let's go.
We got what we needed."
Yeah.
Yep.
Ugh, man.
All right, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That's the movie. No, I enjoy this movie.
For sure.
I really do. Like, as dumb as it is, and as much as we can nitpick it or make fun of it, like, that's why this movie's fun to me. Yeah. I think this is one of those movies that, like, crosses that threshold where, like, it's so stupid and so dumb and like, the logic doesn't make any sense, but all of that is why it's so fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree with that fully. And I will say it has been over 20 years since I've seen this thing, and I am guessing solely based on the age of my kids, it'll be somewhere between 5 and 10 before I even consider watching it again.
Yeah.
And that's assuming, like, we're just flipping through one night and I go, oh, you guys got to see this.
You guys got to watch Killer Clowns.
So, I mean, it is not a cult classic in the sense where there's a ton of rewatchability by any means. It is a cult classic in a sense where it is fun to sit through this thing one time and go, man, this is a real thing that really happened.
This is a real movie.
Somebody put actual dollars into putting this on actual movie screens. Yeah.
I also think this movie... Like, we all watched this movie separate and alone.
Yeah, we didn't watch
this
together.
movie would have been a lot more fun if we were together with beers.
Absolutely.
You know, like,
absolutely. This is a
I would
hang
probably
out, have some drinks with your friends, and turn it on type of movie.
I would probably feel much different about this movie if I hadn't watched it alone.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're
probably right. On like a Tuesday, also on like a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
I figured like I probably should have divulged that before I gave my opinion. I watched this by myself on like a Tuesday afternoon because I was worried I might not have time to watch it.
Yeah.
Between that Tuesday afternoon and when we record it.
And I want to half rescind my comment about when I'll watch it again because in its own space I think I'm accurate and I'm not going to suggest this other path. But if at any point you guys call me and go, hey, Saturday night we're going to get a bunch of beers and we're going to watch Killer Clowns, I will be there.
Look, we've been known to do worse. I mean,
sure.
How many times have we watched Birdemic together? We still haven't even shown that to Jaren. So, and then on Halloween we sat here and watched Killer Sofa and Killer Pinata. And those are the type of movies that are only good when we're sitting together drinking beers. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And I can guarantee you, Killer Clowns from Outer Space is infinitely better than Killer Pinata.
Yes.
Those are both on Amazon Prime, by the way. If you guys want to go see...
Hey, stop promoting Killer Pinata.
What?
No.
Finally.
I call veto.
Call veto on Killer Pinata?
On promoting it.
Okay, all right.
You don't tell people where to find it. If they stumble into it, that's on them.
That's what we did.
Man, that is what we do. All right, so we've kind of covered. So, Freak Easy does have a format. Do you guys have a favorite character?
No. The clowns? The clowns are my favorite character.
I'm going to go with Cop Brad because he was
clown.
Classically handsome.
Classically handsome.
He was, man.
Short clown.
Short clown?
With the tricycle.
I like Short Clown also. I felt like Mike Tobacco knew what movie. He was the only character. Well, man, him. him and the Brad brothers. I don't. They felt like they were in a different movie, although they probably should have been in this movie. They were in a different movie than Cop Brad and Girl Brad. For sure.
The Brad brothers didn't make the cut for One Crazy Summer,
man,
and landed in this.
Yeah, and I feel like you could say that about Mike Tobacco too.
Probably fair.
Like, you know,
like what if we had him, but why am I blanking on his name now? Who was the main character in
One Crazy Summer?
Yeah.
I don't know.
John
Cusack. Yeah, Cusack. Like what if we had him?
John...
I knew John. I couldn't get the end of it. I kept thinking Joan.
Yeah.
What if we had him, but he's John Cusack? All right, now you have One Crazy Summer.
Right. What about Mike Tobacco? He can go be in that other movie.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a character you really wanted to see die? Whether they did or not, except I think everybody died. No.
Yeah, I mean, like, grizzled old cop, right? Like, they set him up to be that guy. So I was excited to see how they were going to do that with him. And like, I was just looking at the IMDb stuff on here, and I thought this was kind of funny because I didn't catch this in the movie, but apparently. Early on, when he's having the argument with Cop Brad about checking out the killer clown stuff, he says something like, "Yeah, okay, fine, you go out there and investigate this killer clown thing, but I'm not going to go because I'm not going to be made to be a dummy." Which was foreshadowing for what happens to him.
For sure.
So that's funny.
That's awesome.
That's funny.
And adorable.
Yeah, good stuff.
I guess if there was a character I really wanted to see die, it was Nighttime Amusement Park security guard.
They got pied to death?
Yep. And he really got his comeuppance.
Got him. Yeah. I hope this guy dies, like, as soon as you see him.
Yeah. And then it turned out to be my favorite death. Is that the next question?
Well,
that's a good one.
I really wanted to see Cop Brad die.
Cop Brad?
I just felt like there was no room in this movie for him and I didn't understand why this movie had him and Mike Tobacco.
Right. Because same guys.
Yeah. Because there's always room for classically handsome.
Yeah, but he could have died and left room for Mike Tobacco to step up and assume his role as the franchise hero. I don't know. It was just, I don't like classically handsome white dudes.
You have to.
Sorry, Dan.
Okay.
I think I might be the most offended one on set. Amazing.
Sometimes you do something and it just pays off perfectly. So favorite death. We talked about we kind of talked about them while we were giving the rundown. Mine was by far the head when punch that dude's head off.
I mean, I'm right there. Yeah, that was my favorite too. Like, there was all of those scenes are pretty funny, but man, that when he punched that dude's head off, I was like rolling off the couch. And like, this was great because I watched this movie with Christina, kind of, because she fell asleep halfway through.
As you did.
But because this was one where I was like, hey, you should totally watch this one with me because this isn't like all those other horror movies. I think this is totally one that you can laugh at with me. And she's like, all right, I'll watch this one with you. When that happened, her reaction was, whoa, oh my God. And I was like falling off the couch. I was cracking up because I was just...
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah. And mine was the guy with the pies because, again, like as much as I chuckled at the pile of pie cream he was under for a second there,
yeah.
And then when they came back and switched it over to just there being a melted skeleton under this thing, I felt like I got the best of both worlds out of that one.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, guys, that's Killer Klowns from Outer Space.
Yeah, it's great. Go if you've not seen this one, put this on your list. But like we were just saying though, put this on your list for a night when you know you're going to be hanging out with your buddies, maybe having some drinks or whatever, because it's definitely this is a group movie.
Yeah,
this is a group movie.
Yep.
Yep.
Don't watch it by yourself on a Monday afternoon.
Yeah.
Unless you don't have any friends, in which case do that and then turn us on right afterwards.
There you go. We'll be your friends right here on the podcast.
I mean, we covered so much of this. You could probably just play this as like a watch along.
Really? I mean, almost. Almost.
Yeah, I have no idea how it times up, but it can't be far off.
Right.
We are not far off.
Oh, guys, this has been a great Freak Easy season. We have one more. Next week is a Friday the 13th. So we always try to release a Freak Easy on Friday the 13th.
Yes.
So that's going to be our season finale for this year's Freak Easy. I'm looking forward. I'm excited. What do you think it's going to be? Comment down below.
Ooh, we're not going to tell them again?
We're not going to tell them again.
Okay. Secret.
We're not going to
This
tell them
works
again.
well because I honestly don't remember, so I'm in suspense as well.
You'll remember as soon as we talk about it.
Well, yeah, you bring it up, and but right now, I got a clue.
So comment below after you like and subscribe. If you're listening to us on the audio version, wherever your favorite podcasts are located, oh my gosh, Google Play and
Google
YouTube
Play
Music
and
Podbean.
Apple Podcasts,
whatever
Podbean,
Apple's
Stitcher.
is.
Stitcher, Spotify.
all them places.
We're all those places.
I totally blanked on that one.
Yep.
Himalaya, maybe. I don't
Just
know.
don't forget that we're under the Geek Easy podcast.
we
That's
are.
the name of the feed. So the Freak Easy is part of the Geek Easy. It's just in the same feed.
Yep. And
Spin-offs.
once you get there, make sure to rate us, review us if you can do that kind of thing. Help us build the geekdom following manias.
Whoa, I just geeked them following manias. Do it. I don't know what that is, but I definitely want that.
That's our expert wordsmith.
Yeah. I'm your host, Jay McCaffrey. Thank you, guys. We'll be back next week.
That's how we came up with a podcast called Marvel Good Yay. Like, that's literally like...
The Geek Easy Podcast is a production of PixelDan.com. Musical tracks used in the intro and outro are used with full permission of the respective owners or creators. Intro and outro narrations are provided by me, Brian T. Stevenson. PixelDan.com's The Geek Easy Podcast is provided for entertainment purposes only. The views expressed are those solely of the hosts or guests and do not necessarily represent those of PixelDan.com or any other party. Be sure to join us next time for another installment of The Geek Easy Podcast.